The GTX 1060 is by far the best mid-range Pascal GPU. Not only does it master 1080p gaming, but it's also able to handle 1440p quite well. And it can even take on VR. It is precisely this versatility combined with the relatively low price tag that is bound to keep the GTX 1060 relevant even after the RTX 2060 takes off. Speaking of pricing, the GTX 1060 is something of an oddball since it comes in two versions, one with 3GB of VRAM and another with 6GB. Add to that the varying cooling solutions implemented by different manufacturers, and the prices of GTX 1060 models can vary quite a bit. That's why in this video, we'll be presenting you with several of the best models of this GPU, including both the 3GB and the 6GB variants. We'll start with the 3GB VRAM models and work our way up. And to get this list going, we have the EVGA GTX 1060 Gaming. If there's one manufacturer for which fans of NVIDIA cards don't need any introduction, it's EVGA. But be that as it may, this particular graphics card is a rather basic model. The design is minimalistic without any LED lighting or striking details, and it only sports a single ACX 2.0 fan. This is actually a good thing, since what we have here is a model with solid cooling and performance that doesn't have its price driven up needlessly by flashy cosmetics. All in all, what you get is a modestly priced EVGA card that's able to satisfy the needs of the average gamer. The only obvious downside is that with only one fan, you can say goodbye to any serious overclocking. But seeing how this card is sooner going to lack VRAM than speed, this really isn't that big a deal. Next up, we have a card by a manufacturer that's not quite as popular. It's the PNY GeForce GTX 1060. Now, if there's something that PNY is known for, it's their low prices. Of course, a low price doesn't necessarily mean low quality product, even though this particular GTX 1060 model may raise some eyebrows with its dual fan cooling when all other models in this price range come with only a single fan. This is nothing more than clever corner cutting on PNY's part. Because of this, the exterior design may seem cheap and the fans are on the loud side. But while this may be a big no-no for some users, those with a limited budget would probably appreciate the company prioritizing performance over design. All in all, while we can't quite call it a hidden gem, the PNY GTX 1060 sure packs a solid performance into a modestly priced package. As mentioned before, the only real drawbacks are the design and the somewhat loud fans. But if you're looking for a graphics card that performs well and doesn't cost much, then you've found your match. The last 3GB model on our list is the ZOTAC GTX 1060 Mini. ZOTAC may not be the oldest NVIDIA partner, but it's certainly established itself as one of the most reliable manufacturers that delivers excellent product both for demanding gamers and for those on a budget. This particular graphics card is geared towards the latter category. Like most of ZOTAC's mini graphics cards, this compact single-fan card can fit into virtually any computer case. The emphasis here is on delivering the card at the most affordable price possible, which is reflected in the minimalistic exterior and the fact that it's equipped with only a single fan. As such, it has an excellent quality-to-price ratio. But while the small frame and the inconspicuous design help it blend seamlessly into any PC configuration, this card still suffers from the same issues that every single fan card has. It runs loud, it runs hot, and it will not take any real overclocking. On the bright side, it is the cheapest GTX 1060 out there, so it's definitely worth considering if you're pinching pennies. Gigabyte graphics cards are by default both good lookers and hard workers, and the GTX 1060 G1 Gaming is no exception. Even without a particularly detailed exterior, the orange stripes and the RGB lighting come together very nicely on the dark gray background. But don't think for a second that this card neglects performance in favor of looking pretty. With a heatsink that can only be described as massive and the dual wind force fans, this Gigabyte card can handle the impressive default clock speed, not to mention that it is a great card for overclocking. Granted, it's slightly bulkier than the other models, but with the recent price cuts, the Gigabyte GTX 1060 G1 gaming graphics card seems more appealing than ever. Here's something you don't see every day: a non-ROG graphics card from ASUS. And honestly, we're fine with that. The first thing that comes to mind when we think of ROG is extensive RGB lighting, and you don't need that driving up the price of the mid-range graphics card. Instead, the ASUS Dual Series GTX 1060 comes with an unusual white design and two simple-looking but powerful fans. It rivals the previous Gigabyte card when it comes to performance, default clock speeds, and overclocking potential. The only major difference being the fact that it comes with 2 HDMI ports and 2 display ports, as opposed to 1 HDMI port and 3 display ports seen in most other cards. That said, considering that they come at roughly the same price, the only real reason to pick this graphics card over a Gigabyte one is the 1 additional HDMI port. Of course, there's also the exterior design, and there's no denying that a graphics card with a white exterior is not a common sight. Now, there's the glaringly obvious question that should be addressed: 3 GB or 6 GB? Well, the graphics settings affected by most VRAM are textures and resolution. As such, it need not be said that the 6 GB variant would do better if you intend to pair the graphics card with a 1440p monitor or if you plan on using a VR headset. What's more, the 6 GB version used to be pricier before, but right now, they are not significantly more expensive than their 3 GB counterparts. Because of this, we are inclined to recommend a 6 GB version, if only because it's more future-proof. In all honesty, a 3 GB version can hold its own, but unless you're on a very tight budget and have some extra money to spare, a 6 GB GTX 1060 would be a better long-term investment. So in the end, which of these cards do we consider to be the very best one? With everything taken into consideration, we'd have to give the title to the Gigabyte GTX 1060 G1 Gaming. With great performance, overclocking potential, a premium quality build, and a rather modest price tag, it just stands out as the full package. In fact, we've built the ultimate $1,000 PC around this graphics card that you can check out via the link in the description. As for the 3 GB variants, we'd have to go with the ZOTAC model since it is the cheapest of the bunch. And as mentioned before, we'd only recommend a 3 GB GTX 1060 to those on a tight budget. And there you have it, a list of 5 of the best GTX 1060 graphics card currently available. Among the 5 of them, we're confident that everyone can find the right pick for their build. In the meantime, click on the bell icon to make sure that you get notified when new videos come up. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this video, and while you're at it, tell us down in the comments how you think the GTX 1060 will fare once the RTX 2060 gets released. As always, we'll see you next time on Gaming Scan.